Okay, I think we're good. Okay, I think I've figured out this camera. So, hello everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith of the nutritiondetective.com or nutritiondetective.com. I should say there's no the in there. Anyway, we are here for another Friday. Love Your Liver live stream. And can you guys in the chat give me an idea of how the mic is? I think I got the mic set up right now, so it should be sounding better than it did last time. Whenever I get a mic's good. Thank you, Will. Okay, great. Well, let's jump right in now. For those of you who are regulars here and you want to help spread this knowledge that almost no one else out there is spreading, remember to, well, if you're here live, X out of the chat and always for any of you, like the live streams, like as many of the videos on this channel as you can, as you will. And then also subscribe to the channel. If you want to post in the chat or if you want to leave comments, you got to be a subscriber to the channel. So if you want to ask questions today, you got to be a subscriber. And then the last thing is, if you're watching this later, leave a comment below, however short you want. Just comments help. We're trying to get the algorithm to get this out to more people. So here we go. It is, for those of you who didn't know, on my Facebook, it is my 47th birthday. So just to point this out, the power of this work, feel free to go back and look at the videos I made for the channel from like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and more. And then look at how I look today and how I looked back then. Realize that I have been minimizing vitamin A and antagonizing copper the whole time for those 4 years. I was antagonizing copper a long time before that. I have nutrition. There's the Nutrition Detective Instagram. There's Nutrition Detective, and there's Nutrition Detective 520. Feel free to go and look at some of my pictures, my gym pictures. And I'm not trying to brag here. I'm trying to say that we regularly have people say that others say they look younger, like they're age. And what does the mainstream sell you as anti-aging? They sell you copper in creams. They sell you retin-A. They sell you retinol in creams. Everybody's out there pushing liver and eggs and dairy and fortified dairy and fortified sugar. I don't know if you guys know this, but in Central America and South America, they put vitamin A in the sugar. Plant-based diets are absolutely mega high in copper and carotenoids, the plant form of vitamin A. I've been avoiding it now and minimizing it. I should say minimizing. I haven't been avoiding it because you can't avoid it. You can't avoid copper. You can't avoid vitamin A completely. You can minimize them. I've been doing that for 4 years. Look at the old videos. Look at the Instagram stuff. Look at how I've changed. 47, 2 kids, small business. Watch my testosterone video on this channel of almost 900. And then ask yourself, go look at the other copper pushers on the internet and the other vitamin A pushers on the internet and see how they don't put a lot of videos out. Some of the carnivore guys, the nose to tail carnivore, have kind of abandoned nose to tail carnivore because it's a disaster, but now they're eating tons of high carotenoid fruits. And those of you who are watching them closely are watching them fall apart in real time. They stopped nose to tail carnivore because they were falling apart. They went to high carotenoid, sugary fruits because they feel like it helps them. But here I have a tip for you. There's kind of a debate going around in the Love Your Liver program and out on the wider vitamin A toxicity community about things that seem to slow the detox or quote unquote help reduce detox symptoms. They almost always store more vitamin A in you. That's what they do. I'm going to be doing a big article fully referenced on this because I have to clear the air about this and show what the duration paradox is. The duration paradox is something that I came up with, It is how a lot in the research, you'll see cell studies or in vitro studies or membrane studies or receptor studies or anything but the whole being, anything but the whole organism. And they'll say this does great things in a cell study, in vitro. So when you see short-term studies, even in animals or humans, short-term studies, and short-term can be 3 months, even 6 months. You see short-term studies or in vitro studies, and they say that these things do amazing things. Accutane, for example, people will be like, Accutane stopped my acne. And it stayed away for months, maybe a couple years. And then it came back, and now I'm sicker. The duration paradox shows that in whole organisms, long-term, the stuff hits the fan. Things go off the rails because they were storing more toxicity. That's why they felt better. They got it out of their blood, which is where it causes the most havoc all over your body, everywhere the blood goes, which is everywhere. And then the body fixes the damage. It starts getting rid of the poison, and then you see the true negative effects of all that extra stored toxicity for all those months and years. And if you push it too long, the dam breaks. And then all of it's just coming out because the liver's just having cells explode. So anyway, I'm going to have to clear the air on that in the way that I do. So I'm going to go through, this is all questions and answers today. Will, hello. Pierre asked, can you talk about how fiber affects absorption of carotenoids and manganese? Now, this is a good question. Manganese, I'm not a fan of manganese. Manganese, if you go and type in manganese and cholestasis, manganese and liver injury, manganese causes liver problems. Manganese has been linked to, I believe it's either, I can't remember if it's Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. You could just search PubMed for those. Well, here, why don't I just do it? Let's just go manganese, Parkinson's, PubMed. Manganese and Parkinson's disease, a critical review and new findings. First sentence of it, excess accumulation of manganese in the brain results in a neurological syndrome with cognitive, psychiatric, and movement abnormalities. Conclusions. The overwhelming evidence shows that manganese-induced Parkinsonism does not involve degeneration of midbrain dopamine neurons, and that L-DOPA is not an effective therapy. What do they give everyone for Parkinson's, folks? They give them L-DOPA and carbidopa. Did you know that dopamine breaks down into dopaldehyde? An aldehyde, your own neurotransmitters, if you look all of them up, they degenerate. They are detoxed. Why in the world would we have to detox our own neurotransmitters? Start pondering that one. But dopamine breaks down into dopaldehyde, dopal, they call it. They shorten it so you don't know it's an aldehyde. And then the theory now is that dopaldehyde is actually degenerating the dopamine neurons. So when they give people more dopamine via carbidopa and levodopa, the aldehyde problem already existed. That's why there's a problem. And they give more dopamine, which seems to relieve the symptoms short term. But then what is happening to all that extra dopamine? What is it turning into? Dopaldehyde. Did you know that anybody who's put on levodopa and carbidopa gets worse? They may have improvements at the start, but they get worse. And what do they do later? What do the doctors do later? They give them more. And they seem to get a little better, maybe half as much as the first time. And then they get worse. Again, worse, worse, and worse. And then they give them more. Maybe it only works about a quarter of as much as the first time. And they get even worse until they cannot give them L-DOPA or carbidopa anymore because they know it will just make them worse immediately. Okay. This would be, does this sound like the duration paradox? You give something short term and it seems to help. And yet long term, it actually makes the problem worse. But let's continue that conclusion here. New evidence is presented on a putative mechanism by which manganese may produce movement abnormalities. Confirmation of this hypothesis in humans is essential to make rational decisions about treatment, devise effective therapeutic strategies, and set regulatory guidelines on manganese. Your body makes manganese superoxide dismutase. It makes copper superoxide dismutase. It makes iron superoxide dismutase. Maybe it's protecting you from all those things as opposed to people saying that you need manganese to make manganese superoxide dismutase. Maybe they've been lying to you through the science. Maybe they don't understand what's going on. Maybe they look at cell studies too much and not real world. And when they get into real world and they see manganese deposits in the brain and they see dope aldehydes are a huge thing we deal with in the Love Your Liver program. And they see these things are degenerating the brain. And what am I out here saying? Well, first of all, don't overdo manganese. Second of all, we need to fix your aldehyde dehydrogenase system. Part of that's through getting proper minerals. Part of that's through not eating things that turn into aldehydes, like cinnamon. Cinnamon is anywhere from 70% to 95% cinnamaldehyde. Did they tell you that the reason it smells is that it's an aldehyde? Oh, but cinnamon seems to help short term. Anyone who takes cinnamon a long time knows that turns on you. Sounds like the duration paradox again and again and again and again. So most of you out there taking herbs, you're inhibiting the detox process. That's why you feel better. And then it comes and bites you in the butt later. And then the herb stops working. Anyway, to Pierre's question, I should say. Fiber helps inhibit manganese absorption, which is a good thing. And carotenoids help to inhibit manganese absorption. This is good. What do we talk about on the Love Your Liver program? If you didn't know, it's at members.nutritiondetective.com. It's in the notes down below. We talk a lot about soluble fiber. Soluble fiber, not insoluble fiber is there. It's it's like when people talk about polyunsaturated fats, every fat you eat other than really super processed man adjusted fats, all of them have PUFAs in them. All of them have PUFAs. It's like all fibers have some insoluble fiber and some soluble fiber. We're not trying to fight with nature here, but soluble fiber, due to the fact it gels, and the way you can think of it gelling is like oats that you've cooked and then you let them sit and they stiffen, or refried beans. You cook them, mash them, let them sit, they stiffen. Okay. Soluble, what do we use pectin for? Pectin is typically derived from apples. Pectin is used to make jams and jellies because it thickens them. Psyllium. If you've ever made a cup of psyllium and let it sit, what does it do? It gels. What can these soluble fibers do? It absorbs vitamin A, carotenoids, and manganese. Let me just give you, what is it? Pectin. See if I can find the paper. Now, before I get into this paper, I'm going to tell you folks out there who are listening to this and thinking that you're going to go and overdose, you're going to go and fix yourself by eating tons of soluble fiber now. You're going to find the best soluble fiber foods and you're going to eat as much of it as possible and you're going to detox as quickly as possible. You're going to kick your own butt and you're going to pay a very sharp price. Everybody thinks that they're going to be the first person to eat the most soluble fiber ever. And I tell them, don't do that. Go up slowly, experiment with the different types of soluble fibers, experiment slowly in going up in amount. I give people a limit, a daily limit in the Love Your Liver program based on what I've seen and what Karen Hurd, also known as the Bean Queen, has seen. And people break these rules all the time. And then they wonder why they're getting their butt kicked. Why the detox? Because soluble fiber causes you to dump an excess of bile. If you are sick, you are leaking toxic bile every time you dump it. Some of it is getting leaked into your bloodstream. If you eat too much soluble fiber and you dump too much toxic bile and too much of it leaks into your bloodstream, more than the soluble fiber can absorb, you feel awful. This is not a problem that is fixed overnight. As I say over and over, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And if you try to turn it into a sprint, if you've ever sprinted as exercise, you know that sprints kick your butt really quick and can leave you wrecked for days. Hey, there's a good analogy. So let's just see this. So the purpose of so here's the paper. Let me get it. Plasma beta carotene response in humans after meals supplemented with dietary pectin. Here, if you want to, in the chat, if you want to go find some of those links about manganese and fiber, if you want to put those in the chat, because I'm not going to have time to find all those today. So if you want to do that, Pierre is a very good researcher. My hat's off to him. We have lots of great researchers in the Love Your Liver network, and Pierre is one of them. He sent me a bunch of this info on fibers and beta carotenes and carotenoids and manganese. This is one of my favorite ones. Okay. The purpose of this study was to determine the effect of pectin, which is typically from apples or other fruit. That's where it typically comes from the most. All plants have a mixture of different soluble fibers in them. So when I talk about something being the most, like apples have the most pectin per weight. Okay. They can also get it from the waste product, the pith, the white part of citrus. Not a huge fan of that. But anyway, the purpose of this study was to determine the effect of pectin on plasma response to beta carotene in humans. Okay. They gave them 25 milligrams, 25,000 micrograms of beta carotene. Here we go. The increase in plasma beta carotene concentration was significantly reduced by pectin at 30 hours and 192 hours. Mean average percent increase in plasma beta carotene concentration at 30 hours after the meal with beta carotene was reduced by more than 1/2 when pectin was added to the meal. Gosh, if we believe, and people have noticed, that carotenoids cause them problems after their carrot salads or their juicing adventures, or they're eating tons of mangoes and papayas and all the yellow and orange and tomatoes and spinach, kale, and your health just keeps going downhill, well, maybe it's those carotenoids. They do cause problems. And if those of you who are eating vegan, you find that you have to eat tons of fat to be satiated, and you eat tons of fat with the carotenoids, you are increasing your absorption of them many, many times fold. So, soluble fibers in general reduce the absorption of carotenoids and manganese. That's what the research says. That's why we like soluble fiber, but soluble fiber, some people, like as an example, some people come on my program and they're like, I never really ate many beans, and I started trying beans because Dr. Smith talked about them, and beans are the most amazing thing to ever happen to me. And they tell me this. Well, some people also go, I can't tolerate beans at all. Why are they such a gut bomb for me? Why are they a disaster? Probably because of gut biome stuff, which we have articles in the old vitamin A detox program in the Love Your Liver for those of you who are already members. We talk about that. We talk about probiotics, and we talk about gut biome stuff and things that you can do to band-aid help the gut biome, because your gut biome's messed up because you have toxic bile. If your garden is growing the wrong things or not growing the right things, your soil is bad. This is the toxic bile to your gut lining. That's how you make bad soil, is you have toxic bile. Okay? So, does your gut biome affect everything? Yeah, because your gut biome is regulated by your toxic bile. Okay? That's the connection that nobody can seem to figure out. What are you putting in the garden that's messing it up every time you eat? Toxic bile. So, I think I covered that one. Let's go into the next one. Oh, Matt. Matt says, happy birthday, my friend. Well, thank you, Matt. Matt has been, we have been buddies since elementary school. We played basketball from like elementary school all the way up through high school. So it's good to have you back around, Matt. Okay. SO asks, what is colitis other than low vitamin A diet? How should one begin to treat when one is not in an acute colitis attack? There is no specific protocol that I have for things, but when people have issues with loose bowels, especially frequent episodes of loose bowels, one of the best things to do is charcoal, activated charcoal. I like hardwood charcoal or bamboo charcoal. I do not like coconut charcoal. They're just trying to shove coconuts into people every which way they can. It's not comfortable with coconuts shoved into you. Not that I know by personal experience, but just don't. But they want to put coconut in people every way they can, just like they used to want to put soy into people every way they can. And now they want to put bugs into people. Just wait and, oh, wait, right? Cockroach milk is the most nutritious food, the most nutritious milk out there. They always do this. They always do this. It's a new health fad. Coconut was a health fad for like what? It was soy. And then it was like omega-3s. And then it was coconut. I've had lots of people who don't get along with coconut charcoal, but they do just fine on hardwood charcoal. What's the difference? I don't know. But some people say that all these coconut products were devised as ways of getting rid of moldy coconuts. Who talks about mold too? Oh, that'd be me. What does mold affect? Your liver. What do mycotoxins, mold toxins end up giving people? Like peanut aflatoxin. It gives people liver cancer. Gosh, the liver. Who talks about the liver? Oh. Okay. Colitis. Diarrhea, out of the blue, multiple times, is generally from too much toxic bile getting into your guts. All at once. Why is it that people who have had their gallbladder removed eat a bit too much fat and then get loose bowels? Well, they don't. What does your gallbladder do? It holds bile. You had your gallbladder removed, you don't have a holding place for bile. So where does all of the bile go straight away? It has no other place. It has no holding cell anymore. It's right into your guts. What does fat cause you to do? Dump bile. Not in a good way. You dump too much bile and you get steatorrhea, diarrhea, fatty bowel movements. Diarrhea bowel movements. Okay? So, what can we do? Well, what do they do in diarrhea in conventional medicine? They give cholestyramine, a bile acid binder. Wow, you mean they use bile acid binders in conventional medicine too? But what does cholestyramine do to people? It gives them all sorts of side effects. All sorts of side effects. Do you know that charcoal and cholestyramine have been compared in studies? Let me find it. Let me find one of them. So, what I'm saying, so remember, pharmaceutical companies don't make any money on activated charcoal. Okay? None. What happens? So we have here the effect of cholestyramine and activated charcoal on glipizide absorption. Let me post this paper in here. The absorption of glipizide, which is a pharmaceutical, which means it's not essential, which means it's probably a toxin inducing the body to do something or forcing it to do something or stopping it from doing something else, which the body didn't want to do, which eventually causes damage. So charcoal tends to really, really, really absorb toxins. Why do they tell people not to take activated charcoal with their medications? It's like there's a connection. Anyway, the absorption of glipizide was moderately 29% reduced by cholestyramine and greatly reduced 81% by activated charcoal. In acute glipizide overdosage, activated charcoal can be used to reduce absorption. Well, let me go look up the side effects of cholestyramine. Let's see if I can find. Let's see. I'm not finding the bile study that I had before. Do today, for those of you who are in the Love Your Liver program, as my birthday gift to you, I am going to be putting all of the 13 article section on activated charcoal that I wrote into the basic Love Your Liver program. So that will be my birthday gift to you. Well, I'm not finding the paper. I have it in those. I'll do those 13 articles because that has the research in it that I wanted. Now, there was a super chat. Let me go find it. Okay, Ramon asked. Thank you for the super chat, Ramon. For those of you who want to get your questions answered today, doing a super chat is the way you get priority. But why is 100% grass-fed muscle meat only diet or way of eating not optimal or complete in the long run? What is it lacking? Thank you. Happy birthday. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the happy birthday. Okay. So here is what I believe, and here is what I have seen in active clients. There is a member, I'm not going to say his name, of the Love Your Liver Network, who was and still is kind of an all muscle meat carnivore. And so there's all muscle meat folks, which is all just like beef or chicken. And then there's like the nose to tail carnivore, where they think if it came out of an animal or was part of an animal, that you can and should eat all the parts of the animal. Well, if you want to know how long-term nose to tail carnivore ends, I can tell you that you can't find anybody who's done nose to tail carnivore for longer than 15 years. They all abandon it because they get vitamin A toxic and copper toxic, especially from all the liver, and they get heavy metal toxic, especially from the kidneys if they eat those. Don't forget that when you eat heart is a muscle. People say, well, can I eat heart? It's a muscle. Go look at that color of the fat on the heart. It's not white typically. It's quite yellow. What do you think it's full of? Maybe vitamin A? That's a color of vitamin A. Maybe bile acids. Why is that yellow? So I've had so here's the thing about an all muscle meat diet. It's a very, if you're eating good sourced beef or even chicken, remember, an all chicken diet is generally going to be low in zinc, and it may not even be enough iron for certain people, especially if you're eating chicken breast. Just so you know, if you want more zinc and more iron from poultry, you want to do dark meat. Okay? But that may not be enough for some people. I mean, all muscle meat carnivores are the only people who come to me with good zinc levels. And the funny thing is they're on a very low copper diet, and their copper levels in the blood are still fine. Fine. So apparently, this whole copper deficiency and zinc thing may have been misinterpreted by other people. Anyway, so back to this. All muscle meat diets. On the standard diet, I'm not going to find this paper. If somebody else wants to find the paper where they talk about basically when you make the bile in your liver, it goes in the bile ducts, goes around the intestines. A standard diet, you poop out only 5% of the bile, the toxic bile. You only poop out 5% a day on a standard diet. So 95% of it gets reabsorbed. All that toxic bile, all the toxic metals in that bile, the toxic copper, the vitamin A, all the fat-soluble toxins, they go right back to your liver for your liver to reprocess and turn into bile again and try to get it out again the next day. Now think of a standard diet. There's not a lot of there may not be a lot of fiber in it, but they still got fiber. It's still got soluble fiber in it. Potatoes, actually, which are common in standard diets, have a decent amount of soluble fiber in them. The only problem is they're a nightshade. And then people think eating the skin of it's healthy, which it's not. And then people don't get organic potatoes, and they spray the heck out of non-organic potatoes. So anyway, potatoes can be helpful with soluble fiber for some people, but they're still a nightshade, and they tend to kick people's butts over time because the nightshade glycoalkaloid poisons accumulate in people. Gosh, accumulation, there it is again. So it is the small amount of the small amount of soluble fiber in the standard diet that is probably what helps these people poop out some of their vitamin A and some of their bile, 5% a day. So let's compare that to what we have people doing commonly in the Love Your Liver program. They're doing a significant amount of protein. A lot of people increase their protein. I do tell people if you're having trouble in the Love Your Liver program, generally a good bet is to increase your protein. Did I say go all carnivore? No, I did not. I'm a blood type O for what it's worth, and I've learned over the years that I do well on more muscle meat than less. Am I going to get rid of all the plant products? No, my body rejected complete muscle meat carnivore very quickly. About 3 days in, I was like, I couldn't even look at it anymore. So if a standard diet only gets rid of 5% of the bile, well, if we start increasing the soluble fiber for those who tolerate it, for those who it doesn't cause them to dump way too much bile, they are soaking up, holding on to, and then pooping out more bile on a daily basis. Can I give a percentage on that? No, but it's just something we're going to assume because that's what soluble fiber does. It absorbs bile, but it also triggers bile dumping. How much fiber is there on an all muscle meat carnivore diet? That's a big fat 0, right? So compared to even the standard diet, how much bile are the all muscle meat carnivore people going to be getting rid of? Not much at all. There's not a lot of pooping going on all muscle meat carnivore diets. And people say, well, that's because you absorb so much of the meat. And that may be true, but that also means you're not pooping out bile much. You're reabsorbing it. So what do we see with all muscle meat carnivore diets? We often see drastic improvements quickly. Why is this? Because it's a very low toxin. If you're getting low toxin meat, 100% grass-fed, organic, all that stuff, it's very low copper diet. It's a very low vitamin A diet. So you're taking in a lot less toxins. Okay. The thing that I have seen is and many of you have seen this when people start, let's say they come off of carnivore. They start wanting to eat normal again because for some reason their body is craving to eat normal again. It's a disaster. They're boxed in, they're cornered in. If those of you who have experienced this, where you went on keto or you went on carnivore and then you try to come off of it, and they have the keto flu and all, and they have, the carnivore thing when they come off of it and they feel awful. Like Sean Baker said on a podcast that if he ate an apple, he was laid up in bed for like 2 days with inflammation. What? An apple? Are you kidding me? What does the apple do? What does it have in it? Oh, a lot of soluble fiber for a plant food, for a fruit, a lot of pectin. What did I tell you soluble fiber can do? Causes you to dump bile. What would an all muscle meat carnivore person not have been doing in all the time they were eating that diet? They're not getting rid of their bile. It's storing up in their liver. So then when they do eat some soluble fiber, their liver has been dying to get rid of bile, toxic bile, that was still stored up. Remember, so all that toxicity that they had before the all muscle meat carnivore diet, all that toxicity, they hadn't gotten rid of it much. It's centralized the liver, but it was just waiting there. They're not detoxing, actually. They're not removing the poisons from the liver. It's staying there because they're not pooping out bile. So then when they do have that little story from Sean Baker, when they do dump bile, then when they trigger it with some soluble fiber and their body's been waiting months to years to do it, or when people come off carnivore or they come off keto and you have the flu, I'm telling you, that's toxic bile causing all your problems. What would keto do in terms of bile? Fat causes bile dumping, but fat also improves your ability to reabsorb the bile, right? Bile helps you absorb fat-soluble vitamins. Do you think it helps you absorb bile too? Fat and bile, they're like this. So people who think they're going to do a high-fat diet to get rid of bile, no. That's not the answer. High-fat diets are how you store more toxicity in your liver. That's why they have fat-soluble toxins stored in the liver. That's why we store fat-soluble poisonous vitamins in the liver. Anyway. So we have somebody on the Love Your Liver Network. I do not know if I can say their name out here, but he was an all-muscle meat carnivore, and he is so sensitive. These are the type of people I get. He is so sensitive that he had a real trouble adding anything else into his diet. Super sensitive to supplements of almost any amount. Super sensitive to adding new foods. He started adding some psyllium because he's super sensitive to adding any carbs. Well, if you can't add carbs, does that mean you're carb sensitive, or does it mean you're insulin resistant? What does vitamin A toxicity cause? Insulin resistance. It's in the literature. What do diabetics have in studies? They have twice as much bile in their blood as controls. People with higher choline in their blood had higher markers of all the diabetic markers in a study that they measured. That's one of the things I'll be going over in my stuff, the article I'm going to be working on today. So I think that, so he started adding psyllium, and he had problems at the start. He had reactions. Yeah, because he started dumping more bile. But he kept the amount low. And he came to me. I want you to remember that when all muscle meat carnivores or nose to tail carnivores come to me, they're coming to me because they're not well. Obviously, the diet didn't fix everything. Okay? So he was an all muscle meat carnivore. He starts adding psyllium husk slowly. And did he react to it at the start? Yes. But he stayed low, like I tell people. And he slowly added over time as he tolerated it. And lo and behold, the problems that he had acquired on the carnivore diet or he had before that, they are slowly going away. Because yes, he's on a low toxin diet. That's great. And he increased his ability to bind and poop out toxic bile. All he did was he added psyllium. Now, I'm not going to tell people to go and eat an all muscle meat carnivore diet because honestly, to me, I don't tell people to do things that I wouldn't do. It's just like eat only beef for the rest of your life. Like, no, life is too short to do that. And as far as I know, there's no, if somebody can show me a 100-year-old who has eaten only muscle meat for 50 years of their life, I'll look into it more. But if you want to get rid of the toxins that you have stored in your liver, you need some soluble fiber. That's what I believe. So now I did on another one of the live streams. I forget which one it was, but I went over like a diet from, it was the late 1800s, early 1900s, where it was an all muscle meat carnivore diet, all beef, no salt, warm water. And they would see miraculous recoveries. And you know what happened when people stopped the diet? And one guy, they said he started eating nuts and fruits and vegetables again. And very quickly, all of his problems returned. He had done the all muscle meat for a year. This is on one of the videos. I went over this. The Salisbury diet, I believe it was. Salisbury steak, right? Salisbury diet. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So he'd been on it for a year, right? If you were actually detoxing, after a year, you should have less reactions to the stuff that you supposedly caused your problems, right? He went right back to the same old problems within weeks to a month, maybe, or maybe a couple, maybe 2 months. He had all his problems back. What does that mean the diet actually fixed? It didn't fix anything. He's still toxic, which is my theory. Yes, it's a low toxin diet. Yes, it gets the circulating toxins in your blood down. Yes, so you feel better. But the bile is locked in a loop from the liver to the guts, right back to the liver again. That's called enterohepatic circulation. Look it up. The toxic stuff is not leaving. Yes, you can see symptoms go down. One of the biggest problems that we have in the alternative world is things making symptoms go down, but making the underlying problem worse. No one else talks about this except me that I know of. Because I'm putting out this toxic bile theory of disease. So that's why, is it a good diet? Can an all muscle meat carnivore diet be a good diet to reduce some people's symptoms, the people who do well on a lot of muscle meat? Yes, it can be a very good diet to lower symptoms. Is it a good permanent diet? No, not in my opinion, not at all. We were given flat molars for a reason. Right? We are hybrids. We are omnivores. We are both carnivores and herbivores. We have characteristics of both. We have digestive builds of both. We have teeth builds of both. People want it to be all one or the other because that's easier for them to think about and to put in a compartment. We don't do compartments here, other than vitamin A is a poison. We don't do compartments here. But yeah, this other gentleman, he's doing a bit of psyllium husk and he had the aggravations at the start, right? So this is the difference between what we're doing here long term and other people do short term. I tell people like, look, well, let me see, what do other people do? They do things that help them short term. Herbs, copper, vitamin A, and they see improvements short term. And then these are accumulative problems that cause problems long term. So then long term, they have problems and they don't know what to do. Whereas when people come to the Love Your Liver program and they start working with me, I say, you may feel worse at the start. I mean, it takes a lot of guts, both on my part and on the client's part. So kudos to all of you who are doing this with me. It takes guts to say, I might feel worse at the start. But if you calm it down and you slow things down, then it's not too bad. And then over time, you get better and you see things you've had your entire life start to go away. Nothing good ever came easy. So yes, you can do all sorts of, you can eat low carb and watch your blood sugars go down. But you know, there is, I'm not going to go find the study right now because it's really hard to find, but there was a study where they had people self-reporting that they were low carbers. And I think it was 20 years after it, the men who identified as low carbers had the highest rate of diabetes of everybody in the study. Low carbing is band-aiding. So that's my thing. So thank you for the super chat. Oh, but anyway, back to the question about colitis. I'm going to put those articles into the Love Your Liver program today as a birthday gift from me to all the Love Your Liver members. Right now, there's only one member in the one article in the basic program. There's now going to be 13, and I'll be going over the charcoal poultice that I recommend for some people who have colitis or other diarrhea issues. I learned this from charcoalremedies.com. Some people actually found that applying a charcoal poultice to their abdomen helped them more than taking charcoal internally. Well, they say the skin is the largest organ of detox. Blood flows right by the skin. I use topical magnesium all the time because it's so well absorbed. Well, why can't toxins flow out the other way also? Isn't that what skin diseases are in this model? Skin diseases are toxic bile and all the crap that's in it coming out through your skin. Well, gosh, if the toxins come out through your skin, why can't we help them come out faster? You don't want to make it too fast because then you get skin problems. But yeah, I'll be doing a charcoal poultice article too. And I'll add something else to that. In the charcoal articles, it talks about how wild animals will often eat the charred remnants of forest fires. They'll eat charcoal. Why would animals know how to eat charcoal? Why would they want to do that? Maybe they notice that it makes them feel better. So generally, if you are constipated, don't mess with charcoal. You've been warned. Constipation is pooping once a day or less, especially if you have straining in the bathroom. I want people, if you're ever going to mess with charcoal, you better be pooping twice a day or more. If you're constipated and you start messing with charcoal, don't blame me when you don't crap for 3 days. I just warned you. Could you do a charcoal poultice instead if you're constipated? Yes. Yes, you could. Okay. Let's see. So let me just check any more super chats. Wow, there's a lot of chats today. Anyway, I can only get through so many of them. Okay, Kendra asks, why no bone broth? Bones soak up lead like crazy. When I eventually ever get out my organ meats thread, you will see that even in wild animals and New Zealand grass-fed animals and all sorts of stuff, they're all full of lead and cadmium. I'm not going to be having people do a lot of bone broth. The thing that we all have to understand is that the world we live in today is outrageously toxic. It's not just like because they raise the animals grass-fed on a nice little grassland. And no, it's It's in the air. My goodness, if you've heard of chemistry trails, they're everywhere. They're starting to test levels of aluminum in the ground that are like 20,000 times or 20 times higher than they used to be. You cannot run away from this, folks. You can't just like pick your favorite cattle farmer and escape it. I would rather not do bone broth and have people avoid that risk of lead than be like, glycine, yay, bone broth. No, that's not how I do things here. That's why. You can thank me later. It's like when people say, but what about fish? I get mine from this little ocean it's supposedly they tell me that there's no toxins in it. Well, here's the bad news. All the oceans are connected. Microplastics have gone everywhere. I can tell that people eat fish from the mercury on their hair test. I can give a very good estimate of how much they eat. The only time that it matters what type of fish they eat is when people eat sushi. And then the numbers on the mercury on the hair test are outrageous. But otherwise, I can make a very good guess as to how many times a week people are eating normal fish, whether it's wild or farm raised. Tuna is especially high, yes. It is more important these days to make an effort to avoid toxicity than it is to worry about all the more nutrition stuff that they're trying to sell you. Because remember, selling you means they're selling you more stuff. That's what they need to sell. They need to sell you more stuff. So they have to sell you on, you need more nutrients, you need more glycine, you need more of this. And here I am with my two supplements, lactoferrin and keystone minerals, which has zinc and selenium and molybdenum in it. And those were the two main supplements that I used in that video here on the YouTube to get my testosterone to nearly 900. 4 ingredients. Well, I do topical magnesium. I do that. So let's say 5. 5 things. Simple things. And then we are avoiding toxins. Specific toxins that we talk about here. That is what we do. It is much more important to avoid toxicity than it is to worry about nutrition. Did I say one's not important? No. I didn't say nutrition is not important. But the people who get into nutrition is important tend to start having about 30 bottles of supplements on their counter. Or they're eating all sorts of superfoods and combination powders of like 60 things, and they're getting worse. Maybe they felt better at the start, but then they get worse over time. How many of you have seen this in your life? The people you know who got into being health nuts and they were misguided. They may have looked great at the start, probably because they took a lot of other toxicity out by eating organic and stuff like that. But then over time, they just slowly get worse. If you haven't seen it, you haven't been paying attention. So anyway, let's get some more questions. Matt says, when I use topical magnesium, I feel increased muscle tension and anxiety. Thoughts? It is exposing your underlying potassium deficiency. I go over this in the potassium articles in the network. I would read those again, Matt. When you use topical magnesium, first of all, don't use magnesium sulfate. Don't use Epsom salts. Sulfur slows down your detox. See, I'm out here saying sulfur slows down your detox. And the research shows that sulfur slows down ALDH. And yet everyone else out there in the alternative nutrition world says you need sulfur to run your detox system. And I just look around and I see a bunch of toxic people taking their glutathione and taking their NAC and eating their egg whites and eating their cruciferous vegetables, the broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, and wondering why they're not getting anywhere. I just had another client this week tell me she's off her thyroid hormone. Pretty cool, right? I'm teaching people how to judge and do this for themselves. So this person took themselves off of thyroid hormone and they didn't get worse when they were off. This is what we're doing. So potassium is extremely important to the thyroid. Potassium is extremely important to your energy, your mood, reducing anxiety, reducing depression. If you got palpitations, it's important to reducing that. So if you ever use magnesium and potassium have a relationship. Many toxins, including vitamin A and vitamin D supplements and copper, deplete your potassium. They effectively deplete the potassium function. Vitamin A blocks the potassium channels. The other ones deplete it. So then if you're toxic, you almost by definition have a potassium deficiency. And I have a very detailed article on potassium in the Love Your Liver program about how people can figure out their potassium needs. But generally what I would say with the topical magnesium and this potassium problem is, first of all, you need to work on the potassium following the guidelines in the program, and then maybe lower your topical magnesium down to a point that you can handle it. Like if you're doing a bath is like a mega dose of topical magnesium. People may not be able to handle that. So maybe you don't start there. Maybe you start with like the Mag-Ka-Hol that we talk about in the Mag-Ka-Hol, Mag-Ka-Hol. It is a combination of water and alcohol and magnesium chloride and potassium chloride. Hey, potassium with magnesium. What a combo. Guess what that avoids? It avoids the potassium deficiency problem when you use magnesium. That's why I learned about it from Michelle Harris, who is on the Love Your Liver Network. She came up with the idea of putting some potassium chloride in the bath, and we ran with it because it works. So, but yeah, it's a potassium problem. So lower your magnesium topical and work on your potassium. Okay, so TJKK says, can you outline the primary benefits of Mag-Ka-Hol versus magnesium plus water topical spray? So we're talking about magnesium chloride here. Mag-Ka-Hol, like I said, is a combination of water, a clear alcohol, a clear spirit, if you will. Magnesium chloride and potassium chloride. That's what it is. People on the internet, I forget the gentleman's name, figured out that magnesium chloride in a clear alcohol was absorbed much better than magnesium in water. I confirmed this on hair tests over and over again. It works. People say, well, what about alcohol? It's not good for the liver. We're talking about a certain amount of sprays a day. We're not talking about shots and shots and shots. Okay? So, what does the alcohol do? Alcohol improves the penetration of these minerals into your system. Now, potassium chloride can't be mixed very well with alcohol. It just doesn't combine well. So you mix the potassium chloride with the water first, and you mix the magnesium chloride with the alcohol first, and you get them all mixed, and then you combine them. And then you use it. The recipe is inside the Love Your Liver network. I can show you hair tests of people who use it. For those of you who are out there who do hair mineral analysis and you wonder why nobody's potassium ever comes up, you haven't tried Mag-Ka-Hol yet. It works. But the benefits are the increased absorption, and I can show you that on hair tests. Absolutely. The cool thing that we have done in terms of Mag-A-Hol is all alcohol. Well, we cut that in half. We do half water, half clear spirit. I use Costco Kirkland clear tequila. You do not want colored alcohols, because the yellow or the browns, because that's all polyphenols, which is another toxin that we try to avoid here. So that's the advantage of it. Okay, Mehmet says, happy birthday. Thank you. The Mag-Ka-Hol is inside the Love Your Liver program. Petra says, long live doctor, and happy birthday. Thank you. What do I think of alpha-lipoic acid? It is a sulfur compound. I never use it. Simple as that. Sir Vancelot says, looking and sounding much better than last week. Nice. Thank you. This is the new camera. I figured out how to get the zoom of it right. I went and I watched a YouTube on how to set up the settings for this. So hopefully it's working pretty well. Thank you. Mehmet asks, what is the upper limit of vitamin A day? I don't get into this. Like, nobody can say, anybody who's saying a statement like that is making stuff up. They're theorizing. I mean, do I do a lot of theorizing? Oh, I do theorizing all the time. I mean, I'm having to figure out stuff that science hasn't put out there yet. So, yeah, am I theorizing all the time? Yeah. Some people, like I allow for people who want to do it on the program, who choose to, that they could do 2 tablespoons of butter a day. And people make progress. The question is, people, the more toxic somebody is, it's just a math equation, right? So let's say, let's go back to the all muscle meat carnivore diet. They're eating almost no vitamin A. Very little vitamin A is found in muscle tissue. Almost none. But they're not getting rid of the bile that contains the vitamin A. So does it matter how much they're eating if the stuff they've stored in their liver is stuck? It's not leaving. See what I mean? Driving a car, right? It doesn't matter how you look at how much you push down the gas. It doesn't matter how much you push down the gas if the car's not on, if the emergency brake is on, if it's in reverse. So there's all these other factors that are going on with it. There are some people out there who I feel like have not made as much progress on the program, who have been doing it a long time, and they haven't seen improvements in some of their symptoms because they eat way too many polyphenols, brightly colored, strongly colored plant foods. They eat too many sulfur foods, like egg whites and cruciferous vegetables. They still eat fish. They do other things that I advocate against. And then they wonder why they're not making progress. Well, sulfur inhibits ALDH. That's how you get rid of aldehydes. Did you know that one of the forms of vitamin A is an aldehyde, retinaldehyde? Polyphenols inhibit ALDH. Fish is just full of fat-soluble poisons and mercury and cadmium. I forgot to say that. I can tell people cadmium and mercury on a hair test with fish go up. If you look at the bars, it's like they move up there. So if somebody was coming to me saying that the vitamin A detox is not working for them, and they were like, well, I'm on like 100. I saw somebody who sent me a spreadsheet the other day that said they were on like 50 IUs of vitamin A a day. And I was like, wow, that's really low. I actually don't know if somebody can get that low. But this person had a list of supplements that was like a spreadsheet, an entire page, or if not one page, 2 pages long of supplements that I don't use. And they were wondering why they weren't improving. And I'm like, you're on like 30 things that I would say don't take. Does it matter how much vitamin A they're on if they're taking all sorts of things or eating all sorts of things that I say these all play into the program, these all play into the diet, and you're picking and choosing what you're going to follow, not doing the whole program, and you're not getting the results you want? What am I going to say? Does it matter how much vitamin A they eat? So that's why I don't put numbers on that, because then people focus on one number. Don't eat, here's the simple thing. Don't eat egg yolks. Don't eat dairy. Don't eat live organ meats. Don't eat pork. Don't eat fish. That's the animal side. Plant side. Don't eat dark greens, preferably not even medium greens. Don't eat reds. Don't eat yellows. Don't eat oranges. Orange color. I'm talking about the color of the part of the plant that you eat. So like as an example, a cucumber. Dark green on the outside. Peel it. What color is it on the inside? Off-white. Okay, cool. Eat that. So when I say dark green or medium green, orange, yellow, red, I mean the part that you actually eat. Don't eat much in the way of nightshades, except maybe for well-peeled potatoes. Not too often, and generally, it's going to be a lot better if you boil the hell out of the potatoes. Oh, and then don't eat purples. I mean, don't eat brightly or strongly colored vegetables. Don't eat the parts of vegetables or fruits that are brightly or strongly colored. There you go. The rest of it, I mean, when I said dairy, yeah, I do allow for the 2 tablespoons of butter, and I try to get people to get the lightest colored butter they can. Not the darkest yellow, because that would have the most vitamin A. Color gives away vitamin A and polyphenols a lot. It does. Do I count my IUs? Have I ever counted my IUs of vitamin A in a day? No, I've never counted it. Apparently, I've done pretty well. If you folks out there are numbers obsessed and you want to put it all into my fitness tracker or chronometer or whatever, I mean, that's cool. You got to realize you might have a bit of an obsessive problem. And that's a real thing. I'm not judging. We all got our problems. But I'm not going to obsess over the international units if people are generally. I want to give people the tools they can do. You go to a restaurant, you can pick on the menu. Like, I'm going to my birthday dinner tonight. Where am I going? Going to a steakhouse. Is it very easy for me to get a low vitamin A meal at a steakhouse? Yeah, very easy. Am I going to eat perfect? No. Can I do a low vitamin A meal? Yeah, very easy. High protein, all that stuff. Can I even help all the people around me who follow the same diet by choosing that place? Yes. Am I going to go to a vegan restaurant? No. Doesn't feel good to me. I know vegans who rare who do the diet very well. They do a vitamin A detox diet very well, and they feel best when they don't eat meat. This is rare. Probably less than 5% of people rare. Can it happen? Yes. Am I interested in people doing what's best for their physiology? Yes. For most people who just think they're sick and that they're going to go to a vegan diet and feel better, they often feel better at the start until they lose so much weight and their zinc deficiency gets so bad that then it's a disaster and then you got to rescue them from it. Gosh, would that be like a duration paradox? I think so. They would also be eating tons of vitamin A. And if they're eating tons of fat, like I said, that would increase their absorption of vitamin A. And if you're a vegan and you're not eating fat, then you're just going to waste away. So you're kind of in a catch-22. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's a really tough thing. Some people pull it off. It's not something that I don't have people try to go all carnivore, and I don't have people try to go all vegan until they tell me or they've noticed that they're like, this is the only way I feel better. I go, okay. So let's see. Oh, Brian says, happy birthday. Looking good, buddy. Thank you. Forever Young asks, I'm interested in bile acid deficiency and what its effects on the body are. Seems like this can be cause of what drives up cholesterol and inflammation. Bile is made from cholesterol. That's something you should know. There's lots of vitamin A and choline and cholesterol in egg yolks. Gosh, why would a chicken be trying to get rid of all that? Why is there lots of vitamin A in breast milk? It's a detox pathway, folks. You need choline to store vitamin A in fat. Why would there be lots of choline in egg yolks? Because there's lots of vitamin A. Why would there be lots of cholesterol? Cholesterol is mostly a part of the detox process. Bile acid deficiency, there are things, so there's two things. So when they say bile acid deficiency in the research, most of the time they're going to be measuring the bile acid in the poop. Okay. What do we talk about here? Where's another place that the bile could go that would cause lots of problems? It goes back into the blood. Does that mean that these people have a bile acid deficiency? No. It means that it's not going to the right place. Like you could have an oil leak in your car, and you say, I have an oil deficiency. Well, it's leaking. It's going to the wrong place. If you look at the oil pan, it's supposed to go through the engine. Your bile is supposed to go into your intestine. But if the oil or the bile goes someplace where it's not supposed to go, then it looks like you have a deficiency where you need it. Okay? Bile triggers pooping. Too little bile in your guts, you get constipated. Where'd the bile go? Too much bile in your guts, whether it gets there via bile dumping from your liver or whether it went in your blood and that blood came all the way around in the bloodstream that feeds the intestines so they stay alive, so they don't die, right? Their blood flow. Intestines need blood flow just like everything else in your body. I forget the paper, but there's a paper where it shows that you can absorb bile acids from the blood flow to the gut lining, and then it goes into the gut there, and then it causes diarrhea. If bile acids coming out of the skin can cause skin diseases, it gets there via the blood, right? So what about bile that comes around to the guts and goes through the guts? They say that your gut lining your gut lining is continuous with your skin, right? Your gut lining goes through you and it flips over on your skin. Gosh, and they say that in naturopathic medicine and a lot of alternative medicine, your gut health reflects your skin health. What could touch both of those things and damage both on its way through them? Toxic bile. See how this all connects? So bile acid deficiency in your gut being related to high cholesterol. And I'm here saying cholesterol is a marker of detox processes. How does your body get rid of cholesterol? It dumps it in the bile. What if the bile is going back into the bloodstream? Inflammation is toxic bile in the wrong places for the most part. And all the other things that are in that toxic bile. So it's not just bile acids. It can be copper, vitamin A, excess iron, polychlorinated biphenyls, DDT, I don't know if microplastics make it into the bile. Wait, didn't somebody show me that? Hold on. Let me see. I swear somebody sent me something on that. Well, detection of microplastics in human colectomy specimens. Out chunks of colon, or possibly the whole colon. I'm not going to look it up. It doesn't really matter. While dietary exposure to microplastics is increasingly recognized, it is unknown if ingested plastics remain within the digestive tract. Our study suggests that microplastics are ubiquitously present in the human colon. Ubiquitously. No. So, they could have stayed it doesn't mean they're absorbed. Ooh. Whoa. Zhang et al. Have also estimated human microplastics burden through the use of table salt in drinking water as well as inhaled air they give some amounts here, items per person per year, respectively. In a prospective study of 2,000 individuals from Iran, there were 650 microplastics, or an average of 0.33 particles per individual, which were identified from saliva samples. How would it have gotten into the saliva? Is it getting into the blood? Is it getting into the bile? Probably. But I swear somebody had a study where they were showing microplastics in the bile. Why do I not use sea salts? Because there's microplastics in all the sea salt. There is. Chinese studies show it. All the oceans are connected. All those fish and shellfish are filter feeders. The cockroaches of the ocean. Oysters and zinc. Now go ahead. Eat your toxic marinated filter bottom. Gross. And fish are just breathing that toxic soup all day. They're marinating it all day. They're soaking in it. They're breathing it in. Can't trust it. Anyway, let's keep going. Will said, join the Love Your Liver program. More than a book's worth of info in there and a ton of community support. Well worth the initial cost. I like to think so. Will's a big fan. Will's been making tons of progress, getting rid of his copper toxicity. And yeah, it's awesome. Christina says, happy birthday to me. Thank you. Nathan gave the recipe for the Mag-Ka-Hol in there. Oh, Nathan. Everybody who knows the Mag-Ka-Hol recipe, we have added 2 ounces of water to the standard recipe. I've changed it in the Love Your Liver program. So it's actually 4 ounces of alcohol, 6 ounces of water to get the potassium chloride dissolved. Bob Dylan says, if you change Dr. Smith's speed to 0.75, he sounds like you have split a 12-pack of beer. Good information. Pierre was saying in his own case, as an underweight type and fermentative type, because we talk about fermentative and putrefactive, huge amounts of soluble fiber is great. This is very important. We're going to wrap up here pretty quick. But soluble fiber, it can ferment via the gut bacteria. Okay. This is where all the carnivores go, oh my God, fermentation. Well, you want to know what happens to carnivores? Putrefaction. Dead animal tissue rotting. Putrefaction creates a different gut biome than fermentation does. Can you change your gut biome too far in the wrong direction? Yes. But you may also have a natural tendency towards one type or the other. Some people, they start adding soluble fiber and they are like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done. And then some of them I have to ratchet back. I've had 2 ladies who were eating 3 cans of beans a day. That is not what I said to do. And they didn't feel good. But they love their beans. They feel good on beans, but they just took it too far. You can take anything too far, folks. Okay? So I had to ratchet them back. I had to say, that's too much. But some people start upping their soluble fiber and they get constipated. I'm going to teach you about the logic of toxic bile and where it's going in a short lesson here. So remember how I said, if you don't have enough bile in your guts, you get constipated. If you have too much bile in your guts, whether it gets there from your liver and bile ducts or whether it gets there from reabsorption through your bloodstream, you get diarrhea. And I've gone over that paper in these live streams before. I'm not going to go find that reference. Okay. Soluble fiber. Let's say people are making bile, but because of their cholestasis, maybe intrahepatic cholestasis, when they make bile and they try to dump it, it actually just goes right backwards. That's intrahepatic cholestasis. From the liver, it's going to the bloodstream. It doesn't even get to the guts. Okay? Things out there like vanishing bile duct syndrome or biliary atresia. biliary fibrosis, where they're scarring shut. Okay. Bile goes right back into their bloodstream. How much of it makes it into their guts to poop? So if they eat soluble fiber, too much for them, which may be any at all, it will trigger the body to try to dump bile, but it goes right back into their bloodstream. How do you think they're going to feel? They're going to feel bad. Are they going to poop? No. More fiber in those people actually makes them more constipated and causes them more bad symptoms. Okay. Don't do that if that's you. Some people who are constipated have told me all of a sudden let's say they try beans and they're like, beans don't work for me, but then they try oats or they try apples. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm pooping amazing now. Great. Different soluble fibers and different people do different things. We are not all the same. Think of it as we're all automobiles, but we're different makes and models. We all run on gas and oil and transmission fluid, and we have the same parts, but they're different sizes and they're different resiliencies and they're different materials and there's different things that help us to run the best. So just because your brother does one thing doesn't mean that's going to be best for you. Genetics is real. So some people, when they take soluble fiber, too much for them, they might dump way more bile than the soluble fiber is able to absorb. What's going to happen to them? They're going to get diarrhea. This is why nobody's been able to figure out fiber, because they don't understand what it's doing to the bile. And now we do. We know that soluble fiber will trigger bile dumping. The question is, where is that bile going? And is the soluble fiber that you ate enough to soak it up without soaking up too much so that you don't poop? This is why this program is not for people who my program is not for people who just want a cookie cutter. Just tell me what to do. Oh, you said 30 grams of soluble fiber is the max I should do in a day. I'm going to do 30 grams. And then they come back to me if they're working with me privately and they go, why am I not pooping? And I'm like, did you read the articles? Did you watch my videos? Because I talk about this specifically. Yeah, I did. Did you catch the part about how I said some people too much soluble fiber will make them constipated? Oh, yeah, I heard that, but I just wanted to do the most soluble fiber I could. That's not what we're doing here, folks. You're driving a little economy car and you're like, well, I'm just going to put some nitrous oxide in it, because that's what the fastest cars do. We'll just put some nitrous in it. Why did my engine fall apart, Dr. Smith? Because your engine wasn't made for that. Or maybe it's not there yet. So don't do that. We don't double down or triple down around here. We listen to the signals our body gives us. Okay. Okay, Pierre, I saw that YouTube won't let you publish links. So that's too bad. We'll figure that out. Yes, Will. They. Let's see. Let's see. So Pierre was answering a question here. He says you can get molybdenum from beans or supplements. You get soluble fiber from beans, oats, psyllium husk, and apple flesh / pulp. Now, let me just tell you, watching hair tests, this is going to be the last thing I'm going to go over. Oh, SO, thank you for the happy birthday. I have watched on hair tests that selenium, like Brazil nuts for selenium, 3 to 5 Brazil nuts a day used to be enough to bring up people's selenium levels. And it doesn't work anymore. People have had to double that to get their selenium levels to come up. Molybdenum. Before I knew about vitamin A and molybdenum and all that stuff, you need selenium to run ALDH. You need molybdenum to run ALDH. Weird that selenium is showing up less and less in foods, if that's something we would need to detox. Molybdenum, I used to tell people on their treatment plans that they could if they ate a cup of beans a day, it would fix their molybdenum deficiency. And for most people, it used to. It doesn't work anymore. It's been, I found a page, it was about China's soils. And they said that 50% of the soil in China is deficient in zinc. 50%. Do you think the information comes out of a country with that political system is going to be honest information that you get? So if they say it's 50%, is it probably more like 80, 90, 100%? Zinc, selenium, and molybdenum. These are all very important nutrients to helping your body protect itself and detox vitamin A, copper, manganese, all these things that I talk about that are poisons every day. Plant-based diets, what is that going to be real high in? Probably manganese, copper, vitamin A. Interesting. Bugs, what are bugs high in? Calcium, iron, carotenoids, plant vitamin A. What do they tell you you're going to be eating soon? You can have your cockroach milk. You can have your crickets. You can have your plant-based diet. You can have your fake meats made out of soy. Or who knows what they're going to be made out of, right? It's people. They're going to try to feed us everything that I am fighting against and helping people get better with every day. Doesn't it all make sense now? That's what we're up against, folks. Do you know that vitamin A increases iron absorption? And most of the people I see have what I consider to be excess iron in the form of ferritin. Do you know why your body binds iron to ferritin? So it can dispose of extra iron in the bile. So if you had a leaky bile system, what might you be getting too much of in the blood? Ferritin. Here, let me just find that before I go. Here we go. Ferritin in the liver, plasma, and bile of the iron-loaded rat. Sorry, I haven't gotten the live stream software yet, folks. So what if I'm saying that the whole reason we make ferritin is a binding protein that our body binds to iron to protect us against that iron. It is intended to be excreted in the bile. And if you have a leaky bile system, that ferritin leaks back into your blood and you see iron overload. Let's just go over some things in some statements in this. Here's the first sentence. Rats were loaded with iron, with overload up to a 10-fold increase of the iron and ferritin protein content of the livers was measured. So the body increased the same amount, 10-fold, of iron and ferritin in the liver. Wow. Okay. The ferritin concentration in the bile increased also and was in the same range as the plasma. Oh, the ferritin concentration of the bile increased also and was in the same range as the plasma. Same range. How could that happen? What if it was leaking? Oh. The ratio of plasma ferritin concentration to bile ferritin concentration in individual rats decreased in the case of considerable iron overload. Oh, something's going wrong in the system. Let's see, where was the good one? These results indicate that ferritin was not solely leaking from the plasma to the bile. Oh, they're trying to say it's going the other way. Together with ferritin, iron, here we go. Together accumulated in the bile. There's that word accumulated again. Together with ferritin, iron accumulated in the bile. Well, what does ferritin bind to? Iron. Okay, next sentence. The iron content of the bile ferritin was in the same range as in fully iron-loaded liver ferritin. Gosh, why would those be the same? It is likely that ferritin in the bile is excreted by the liver and consists of normal iron-loaded liver ferritin molecules. In all circumstances, the amount of iron in the bile was much higher than could be accounted for by transport by the bile ferritin. There's even more iron. The body's trying desperately to get rid of this iron through the bile, so there's even more than the ferritin can hold. These results agree with the supposition that ferritin and iron in the bile are excreted by the liver through lysosomal exocytosis. Your blood ferritin problem, your iron overload, your hemochromatosis is an iron overload going into the bile problem and then leaking into your blood. Isn't this fun? What do I treat in 95% of the people who come to me? Excess iron in the form of ferritin in their blood. Blood donations, folks, are a Band-Aid. Do they help bring down your ferritin? Yes. What are they taking out of you? Blood? Can they go into your liver and take out chunks of ferritin? No, they have to take it out through the blood. So when you do a blood draw, a blood donation, you take out chunks of vitamin A, you take out chunks of ferritin, you take out chunks of copper. You take out chunks of whatever's in the blood, but you also take out chunks of good stuff. It's the nature of the beast. What do I do with people who work for me? Work with me in testing and consultation packages based on their ferritin? I give them amounts of blood donations that they could do in the next 6 months until we test again. If you're out there trying to treat your iron overload on a protocol and you're not measuring your ferritin, you are lost. If you are trying to do it by hair analysis iron, you are lost. If you start feeling worse after blood donations and you have people who are telling you based on their protocol instructions that you should keep donating blood and you feel worse every time you donate blood, I'm going to suggest that you stop doubling down and tripling down and maybe think this isn't good advice, and then you come talk to me so I can fix the problem. And then we'll measure your ferritin and we'll see. Now, let me tell you a quick story. I had a guy with a 550 ferritin, which is high. That's even high out of lab range. That is hemochromatosis, diagnosable by any physician. He went and donated blood one time. He said he felt absolutely awful afterwards for days. Now, if he was on a protocol, what do you think they would have told him to do? I know what they would have told him because I've heard from clients of theirs. You're just detoxing iron. That's why you need to go and donate again. And what have I seen happen with those people? And what have people who have done that told me? I felt worse every single time I did it. Don't double down or triple down on something that's making you feel worse. I told this person, okay, you felt worse on the first time. Don't go do it again. We'll just work on other things. It's pretty straightforward, listening to the body. It's when you don't want to listen to the body that you get yourself in trouble. I'm teaching people through the Love Your Liver program and through my working with them, I'm teaching people how to fish. I'm not trying to fish for them. I'm a guide teaching people how your body actually works and what you should watch for and what you should watch out for. So, let me just check any more. Will sent a super chat. Happy birthday. Have a burger on you. I've gotten to the point now where if I if I go to In-N-Out, let's say, because I need to get something to eat. It's one of the better of all the fast food places out there. I know it's not organic. Give me a break, folks. There's times when you're out and about and you got to eat something. Okay. Hopefully you're not that lost in health obsessions that, people who are out, the people who are out in the real world, and those of you who have to stay home because you're that sick, I'm not trying to say anything negative, but when you're out and about, sometimes you got to eat. An In-N-Out burger protein style with whatever else you're going to put on it can be a really good low vitamin A. It's iceberg lettuce, right? It's beef. And then you put whatever else on it. I'm going to put mustard on it. I don't care what the vitamin A nuts are going to say about it. I'm going to put mustard on it because that's one thing. People have things they're not going to give up. Am I worried about a little bit of mustard on my burger? Me personally? No, I'm not. I might eat burgers once a week. So I would have a burger on you, but I'm going to have a steak, Will. I'm going to eat a steak. Don't know what I'm going to do about sides yet, but I'm definitely going to eat a steak. So anyway, that's all of it for today. Went over, but it's always fun doing the Q&As. Thank you for the super chats, gentlemen. And hope you all got something out of it. Have a great weekend. I'm off to do the Inner Circle inside the Love Your Liver Network. Going to be putting up that activated charcoal chunk of articles and adding some stuff to it. Working on my big article about another topic. And I will see you all hopefully next week. Bye now.